Hi, and welcome to the first autumn festival that Litfest is hosting, and we're absolutely thrilled to be with you this evening. It's National Poetry Day, so what better way to celebrate than having an event with Lancaster Literature Festival and our special guest tonight, Hannah Hodgson, who's going to be reading poetry with you, but Bill will tell you more about that later. My role is to chair the board of Litfest, and I'm absolutely delighted. There's over 91 people joining us this evening, which is absolutely amazing. So you've all got a passion for poetry, obviously, and you're all going to be looking forward to hearing what we've got to share with you tonight. Just a few things from me before I hand over to Bill Swainson, who's another member of the board who will introduce Hannah to you. I just want to mention how massively proud I am of Litfest, and this is our second event this year, a series of festivals that we've delivered. So for us, we only exist because of funding and donations by generous supporters. So if any of you feel that you would like to support Litfest to continue to do these amazing events and welcome people not just only from Lancaster, but all from around the world, please do donate if you feel that you can this evening. So without further ado, enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing from all of the people that are going to read their poems, but especially hearing Hannah as well, because this is my first time. And so I'm really looking forward to enjoying the whole evening. So over to you, Bill. Thank you very much and enjoy.
Thanks, Julie. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to see so many people here this evening. And it's wonderful that you've joined us for this Northwest celebration of National Poetry Day with the launch of the Litfest Poetry Mosaic. And I hope that if you haven't yet had a chance to explore the new website, that you will soon. And I want to tell you that we'll continue adding poems throughout October. So if you were just thinking that you'd missed the chance, you haven't. So get writing, and it's never too late to start. Now, tonight's event is like all the events in the Autumn Festival. Tonight's event is online. And that's the great thing about digital events, is that everyone can access them. The challenge of digital events is that the quality of the sound and the picture depends on the quality of the connection. So one or two of our poets may, if they're in a place with not such great signal or not great broadband, may have difficulty joining, in which case Hannah has very kindly said that she would read in their place. And if Hannah is preparing for her next bit, and I'll explain how the evening works shortly, then I will read in that person's place. But we hope, our fingers are firmly crossed, that everyone's connection will hold up. And if we can't get vision, we will certainly get sound. So this is going to be a poetry reading like a TV program, which will occasionally turn into radio. Okay? So now it's time to tell you about the shape of tonight's celebration and to welcome the brilliant Hannah Hodgson, who has kindly agreed to present the event, talk about her work, and to read some of her poems and some of her friends' poems. The event will last just over the hour, and during it, we will invite the poets on stage in threes. We will probably invite them one by one in their group of three, because on the one hand, Crowdcast is good for quality and working with after the event, but it only has 6 places on its stage at any one time. So that's to tell you why things might go a little slowly at times. Now, Hannah Hodgson is a poet and blogger and a palliative care patient. She gives talks in schools and at festivals and at corporate events about disability issues, and also writes commissioned poetry. Her first poetry pamphlet was Dear Body, published by Wayleave Press in 2018, and her second, Where I'd Watch Plastic Trees Not Grow, was published by Verve Poetry Press earlier this year. So please give a very warm digital welcome to Hannah Hodgson.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Reading and choosing these poems from such a huge pool has made me realise two things. One, that there's a lot of talent in the Northwest, and two, we make so many decisions every day, conscious, unconscious, easy or stomach churning. Choices are intertwined with our lives every single second. And I think poetry is the best way to show this, because it shows the conscious, the unconscious, the reliable, the unreliable, the beautiful, or the tear-jerking. We make some decisions in poems, which we make every day. Can we trust this person? What's happening here? What is about to change? Poetry, I think, is the best way of showing that life imitates art. I came to poetry when I was 16, and I'd spent 6 months in hospital. I was in year 12. I went from working as a cleaner and in my local shop and babysitting, 3 jobs, to being really ill, just really ill, all within 6 months. And my life kind of unraveled, and I didn't have a direction. But one choice changed that for me, and that was going to Dove Cottage Young Poets, which is in Kendal, where I met Kim Moore, who basically said, poetry, this is what you need to write. And at first they didn't even know about my diagnosis. It took me a long time to kind of open up, and the group were very receptive, and that was a choice they made. They were very accepting of everything I said, what bombshell was going to come out of my mouth next, because I was processing it. So I use a hospice, and my illness is getting worse with time, and it doesn't mean I'm dying right now. It means I'm getting more and more unwell. And with this context, I'm going to read the first poem. Choice 1. Should we always tell the truth? Hide and seek. My mother learns I'm in trouble when a nurse says resus, like it rhymes with Dr. Seuss. Resus. He turns the monitor away from me, my body writing a tell-all book the hospital needs to protect me from. I can feel my heart blinking on the screen, flickering as my cursor. The machine keeps alerting the staff towards my apparent death. I'm too shallow to be captured. The doctor spends 15 minutes trying to get a cannula into one of the branches inside my arm. How many times does a blood pressure cuff need to confirm consciousness? How many times do I need to tell my mother which of my documents to burn?
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, that was wonderful. Now, as well as issuing a region-wide call-out for poems on the theme of choice, we also invited all the schools in the Lancaster district to take part in this celebration of National Poetry Day by encouraging their students to write poems in response to the theme, and then asked each school to submit their poems as a group. Now, we all know that COVID has made the return to school this autumn particularly difficult for students and teachers alike. So while we had hoped to see more entries, and are still hoping that some schools will submit poems during the remainder of the month, we're particularly pleased that the first 3 readers come from Lancaster Girls Grammar School, who, guided by their head of English, James Grundy, submitted, and take a minute to consider this, 177 poems from 7 classes in years 7 and 8. In the opinion of Litfest and Hannah Hodgson, the 3 young poets who are going to read now, Bella, Bella, and Asia, really show what poetry can do.
There are lots of different choices in this life. Some are easy, like what ice cream you want. Some are hard, and they always leave you wishing you had done the other thing, no matter what you do. I don't know why. Sometimes I lie in bed at night, wondering why I made the wrong decision 3 years ago, wondering why they haven't talked to me since then. Sometimes I lie in bed at night, wondering if I picked the wrong school, if I picked the wrong thing to say on that first day of school. We are controlled by our choices. They swirl inside of us, make us feel happy when we make the right choice, make us overthink and stress when we make the wrong choice. We just need to learn how to leave these choices in the past, forget about them, but that's like forgetting our name. These choices are woven inside of us. They're a part of us. We can't forget them.
Thank you, Bella. If Bella BM could join us to read Messed Up Stuff, that would be great.
Blood skies, 4.5 million dead and more dying. Death surrounds us, forces us into hiding in our homes. We watch, we wait. Sometimes you can really think you're in love when you're really just in pain. We were in pain. Please, I can't breathe. No peace, only war. We need change. We're going to die unless we help the planet. We're killing it.
Thank you. And now, when you're ready, Asia.
I have the power to choose, so do they. So why do they murder the innocent day after day? I have the power to choose, so do they. So why do they shoot the desperate children day after day? I have the power to choose, so do they. So why do they slaughter ruthlessly day after day? Blinded by their own arrogance, those beasts are hungry for land. Those hard-hearted, merciless beasts won't stop until they've stolen the land.
Thank you, Asia. And now, back to you, Hannah.
Yeah, I'm glad the chat agrees. Those poems are just, they really took my breath away. So I'm going to talk now about the next poem and kind of the context behind that and the choices behind that. So my choices throughout the pandemic have been really, really difficult because I'm clinically extremely vulnerable, and obviously I've been shielding. And my dad, he retired a couple of weeks ago, but obviously at the height of the pandemic, he's a fireman, and he couldn't not go in a burning building or, pull someone out of a car just because of me. So there was a 10-month period where a lot of other people were seeing my dad and I wasn't, even though we live in the same house, and we were kind of ghosts around each other. So he would, I don't know, grab something from the kitchen and then use a medical grade spray we've got to clean where he touched, and I'd do the same. And that's kind of how we operated. It was really not nice. So 10 months in, the PCR tests came out, and as a first line of response, he was tested. And obviously there's a risk there, but I went, I just need a hug. So that is kind of the context around living like that. And we are, we're still shielding, even though it doesn't legally exist according to the government, and that's a choice on their part. But I've decided, and my consultants have decided that my immunity is really rubbish, so wouldn't risk it until the booster. For me personally, obviously everybody's different. So this next poem is Listen, I love you, joy is coming. And that is from, the title is from a Kim Adenizio poem, which is just such a joyful thing. She addresses it to the woman in the next toilet cubicle that's crying. And I think she has a new baby. And it's kind of hold on in there. And that was really what I needed to hear at that point, because I know it sounds minor, giving my dad a hug. But when you're in the same house and yeah, it was just really hard. Listen, I love you. Joy is coming. I envy the woman he carried out of fire. Carried her because she's the single most valuable thing in her flat. For nearly a year now, I haven't been able to hug my father. He navigates our home like a careful satellite. When I enter the kitchen, he moves to the utility room. When I'm in bed, he hovers on the other side of the stud wall. Pandemic firefighting has its challenges. Students hold up their burnt pizzas from 10 paces. There's a lack of social distancing inside car wrecks. Once this is over, I will surrender every candle he hates. Embrace the familial equivalent of a fireman's lift. Saved from this void, these flames. Yeah, that it was really difficult, and I've still kept my candles. So got my hug, still have my candles. Anyway, back over to Bill.
Thanks, Hannah. That was a terrific poem. Now we're moving into the adult submissions from all over the Northwest, and the first thing to say is that the range of poems in the next three groups is really quite remarkable. At first, I thought that with the theme being choice, we would have many poems of this or that, or many poems like Robert Frost's wonderful poem about the road not taken. But in fact, we have human, humorous, dark, elegiac, witty, ecstatic, and thankful poems. So please sit back and enjoy our first three poets, who are Bev Clark, Kevin Dyer, and Anne Holloway. And before they begin, I think Bev Clark has been having difficulty connecting. So Hannah, are you ready to read for Bev, or would you like me to?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Then away you go.
Human Choice by Bev Clark. I may be a writer, an artist or a poet, an intellectual student studying just to know it. I may be an alias, a pen name, another. I may be a housewife, a partner, or a mother. I may be bisexual, heterosexual, gender fluid. I may be Christian, a mum, a Muslim, or Druid. I may be a preacher, a teacher, or a showman. Whatever I choose, it's all part of being human. I am a singer, an acrobat, or dancer. I may be a gambler, an addict, or chancer. I may be a medic, a carer, or good neighbour. I may even be a millionaire who chooses to vote Labour. I may ask the questions I don't know all the answers. I may be the quiet one who only throws the glances. I may be unemployed, self-employed, or seek promotion. I may run a marathon, climb a mountain, swim an ocean. I may be super confident or shy and unassuming. Sometimes the choice is hard. It's all part of being human. I may travel 7 continents, run the back streets of a city. I may paint a masterpiece, sprawl the walls with cool graffiti. I may marvel at the sunset and tremble at the thunder. Look out on the universe, be in awe of all its wonder. Hold a flower in my hand and watch its petals falling. Life offers us so much, what it is to be human.
And Kevin.
Small, anonymous jug. Toy violin the size of my thumb, unplayable, made of glass. Lampshade in the shape of a woman's head, eyes blue, nose chipped. Picture of Marjorie's dad, a man I never liked and never met. Porcelain duck, croc dog, bottle, dug up from some disused midden. 7 beer mats, one from each closed down pub in a dying town. A Rembrandt. No, that's a lie. It's a kangaroo print by Rolf Pedo Harris, worth nothing. The things we bought to show how successful we were. 1 million objects lined up on shelves, sourced and bought and stole and received as gifts from people who have forgotten the giving of them. Hiding places for spiders. Things, if a burglar broke in, he wouldn't pinch. The impossible task of dusting them, the weight of them. No one, not even me anymore, looks at them. Given by children, now grown up and gone, who don't remember, the whole house, a mass, a tip, a population of unwanted crap. I have chosen to bring in the house clearance men in their brown coats with 1,000 boxes and no nostalgia. Let them take it all away, flog some, dump most, landfill, scatter it like jetsam, and let me sit quiet in a bare room with a hard chair and a mug of sweet tea. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Anne Holloway.
Hi. This is called Clutching. A river is a hole where images enter. A nightingale is a set of dusty wings, and I'm somewhere in between, working work and dreaming dreams. My feet are dangling in the river, but my hands can't let go of the branch, because if I fall in, I'll not be solid. And if I'm not solid, things will fall apart. And if things fall apart and I'm not here to fix them, who knows what mayhem that will bring? And worst of all, I'd never know, because I'd be in the river and all the madness be way above me. And I don't have a set of wings. I only have my feet, which dangle in the river, and my hands, which clutch the branch.
Thank you. And now it's back to Hannah.
Again, yeah, those poems just need no words. They just all speak for themselves. I think poetry, and this is a cliche, but I think poetry has the potential to hold the whole world. And that includes alleyways, puddles, cars, country lanes, foxes going through bins, cars whose brakes have been cut. sometimes there are no good choices and sometimes there are good choices, but life isn't a fairy tale and there will always be a time when something isn't right, and something hits you personally, because it's not a work of fiction and it's only looking back that you get to see the forks in the road. I've got a really good friend that writes crime novels, and she has a whiteboard just empty and then post-it notes of the plot, taking her through. And it made me think, you know, if you could almost have that up view, looking down on your life and going, oh yeah, when did that thing and that happened. And but then I realized life isn't always that tidy, and I don't think I'd want to know, because sometimes looking back on things, even though personally I've obviously had quite a big shock in my life, it has driven me. But it's on the theme of crossroads and not knowing you're making a huge decision until it's happened, or not knowing your life's going to change drastically 1 year from the next. The next poem is by an incredible friend of mine who I didn't even know, really. I'd met her twice at the start of the pandemic, and we have Zoomed 3 times a week during the pandemic, and she's my best mate. And I'm not just sticking in my best mate's poetry here. It is genuinely an incredible poem, and I'm going to let it speak for itself. I Banda by Lydia Allison. I don't miss my life. Yes, we had money. 4 cars in the drive. It wasn't all bad. My father kept it in check, then he died. 4 holidays a year. It got worse. I stayed for the kids. I turned down work when I was young. A good job. Worked in his shop until they put an end to that. I'm friendly. The days got longer. My fingers scanned the sides, searching for dust or cracks. The house caught the sun in the morning and held it. One night I did it. A small holdall with nothing but a mobile phone, a note I couldn't bring myself to leave, and 400 quid from the safe drawer.
We need Lam Lem, and I think he may have been having difficulty connecting. So I'll read it for us, unless Hannah, you would like to.
I'm happy to.
That's lovely.
Do you remember by Lam Lem? I still remember when all the twinkle stars were up and you tucked me into bed. Don't go, Mommy. That phrase you loved, and we snuggled together, slept. I still remember how the same stars were cold when you were the only one in bed. Tell her it's okay to let go, they said. But I don't remember. When all I could see were tearful stars, and I tucked you into bed. Did you want to go alone so far, or was it I he left instead? I still remember.
No, Patient John, it's your turn.
Oh, hey. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm in a beer garden of a pub, but I've got a poem for you. It's called Hope Upon Hope, Fastened to a Rope. I'm going to perform it, assuming you can hear me.
We can hear you fine.
Oh, amazing! I'm delighted to hear. It's called Hope Upon Hope, Fastened to a Rope, which is a song by Richard Dawson, who is a Northumberland singer-songwriter who I love. And here is the poem. Northumberland singer-songwriters are able to articulate things the rest of us are barely capable of. In some pubs, it's impossible not to order scampi fries and join in with a conversation at the next table, with a group of people wearing band t-shirts and wearing old but steady jeans, who you agree with about cricket. We've not seen each other for months, the three of us. We drink 5.4% golden ale, and we talk about our new jobs and our old relationships. And each of us has to say at least once, just in case you haven't heard, this has happened. At the urinals, there are Where's Wally's in frames at eye level. And imagine not trying to find that stripy lad and his dog. I am drunk on 5.4% golden ale, and I'm on my third visit, and I find him standing next to the Ferris wheel, his hands in his pockets. We're all looking out for you, my dude. I say, don't worry. We're all here for you. All of us in this nice pub that I don't know the name of. At every urinal, we have been allocated a task. It'll be okay. We have someone we're looking out for. That's the poem.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Hannah, would you like to read Kathy Place's poem, December?
It was December when you left us. It was December and I was 1,000,000 miles away. Across the pond where the sun was shining, and each day brought fresh hope. The knock at the door, the firm banging of fist on glass, brought darkness raining down. Boarding the plane, my vision was a blur, to be swept up in the grief and pinned down by the pain. With swollen eyes, a heavy heart, and constricted lungs, life dragged me through each day, whispering empty promises and playing a mixtape of memories. It was December when the sun was snuffed out. But now I'm trying to relight this fire. I love the hope at the end of that one. And those poems just sing. I genuinely, in these in between sections, I'm struggling to comment because I think these poems are just, they speak for themselves. I met Elora a few years ago, and she's a poet to watch, definitely. And this is who the next poem is by. She is somebody that always teaches me something different every time I speak to her. She knows all about the Greek myths, and she went to a very arty university, and she said, oh, it was like completely normal, like you'd walk past and somebody would be serving sushi on their bare chest. I was like, okay, you had a very different education to mine. So yeah, her poems always open that world up to me. That isn't something I know. Greek myths aren't something I've studied. The way, and the classics, I haven't studied the classics. And the way she writes about classics makes me feel accessible to, they make classics accessible. And I think that is the key behind poetry. You know another person's written this, and you know it's, even when they say it's not about them, it is really. Unless, you know, they're being massively fictional, you know, there's usually something based on real life or someone around them. And even if it's covered in image and metaphor, it is life. And just a quick note, when I contacted Alora and asked if I could use this poem, she said it's all about her choice to turn into a tree rather than go with Apollo. When I wrote it, it was as an ultimate act of choice and agency, and as a feminist act. Daphne by Laura Sutton. I could not run, so I took root, still as a housewife, stagnant. My eyelids went first, desiccated to tracing paper, to sandpaper. You in your gleaming arrogance, you could never foresee this, that my arms would age to bark, my belly an empty whiskey barrel. The feet that failed me, trickling in sunlight, toes to water, to honey, to wood. My teeth to laurel leaves, burning green, burning poetry. It did the trick. You, Apollo, sliced on by towards that distant golden seam. Unable to see my new limbs, so much stronger now than your own. I watched you wend away, barbed wire in the breeze. My teeth rattled their applause. My heart went last, an agate of sap and fury. I have never been more powerful. I have never been more myself.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And now we have our last three poets, who are Harriet Rosenthal Stott, Esther Veal, and Charles Whitehead. And when you're ready, Harriet.
My poem is called Decidophobia. Scrambled or fried? He taps a beat on his notepad with a pencil too small for his grip and cracks a smile, while his eyes pinch, squeezing out the white until only the black beads linger. Scrambled or fried? The beads press down onto mine and the smile cracks. The reply claws my mouth and hides in my throat.
Thank you.
My poem is called The World is Big. The world is big, and I am in it. I am so in it. I've got you, says the sea. Okay, I whisper back. And you've got you too, you know, she adds in her dangling song. The world is big, and I am in it. A rush of air and a squeal. I am so in it. Immersed, held, lifted and lowered with a heave and lilt as gentle as sweet sleeping breaths. All the while, I am holding mine. You're doing it, she says. Her hands are cupped and full. It's all you, she offers. And with that, I am breathing on my own in the world, released and travelling. Grasping skeins of sea, they drape my body and effervesce at my toes like lace.
wrapped in the sea and the sky. Oh, the sky, wrapped in the sea and the sky. And after a time, I emerge, buoyant, floating out and on, gloating, gleaming, glowing red, wrapped and swell, wrapped and well. The world is big, and I am in it. I am so in it.
Thank you. And our last poet tonight is Charles Whitehead.
So this is called My Mobile Bubble. It's from August 2020, and it's set at the end of the long lockdown. And it's a drive from Cumbria to Northumberland and back, driving on B roads, crossing 8 rivers, the Lune, the Rothy, the Eden, the Tees, the Wear, the Tyne, the Coquet, and the Alm. Luxury, a journey in my personal car bubble, but it's not a lockdown drive of shame. Raring to see wild, distant, post-industrial, quirky places beyond that pandemic shell. Edging away from a past fortnight of commitments and computer time. Tea stop, only my 3rd cafe since March. Offered a lucky dip of iris rhizomes, a natural gift for Iris. Weird mines, quarries, isolated rows of houses, square brush marks of burned grouse-moor patches. Tying myself in knots finding the route, no mobile signal. A cool green gorge below a warm stone bridge. Almost there and lost again. An extra half an hour after not meeting Jane for 134 days. All aboard, Craster kippers, a bag of broad beans from Lindisfarne, stutty cakes, all packed. Coastal view from the purple heather on Simonside. Typical new normal, I get lost in the same place as a week ago. Westward to the horizon on empty roads, over row after row of moorland ridges. A terrific radio quote on conducting. Somehow you get an orchestra sound from one place to another. The edge of Wild Boar Fell seen from 20 miles away at the same height as my road. Radio on loud, Schubert's Death and the Maiden played by a quartet celebrating 50 years together. Lucky to have the river for a swim on arrival home. Temperature, it's the same as the North Sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Back to you, Hannah.
Thank you all so much for this evening. Thank you so much for sending your poems. Thank you so much to the readers. Thank you to Litfest themselves. It was wonderful to hear the original authors reading their poems aloud, because I spent a long time reading these out loud because it was hard to cut the list down to tonight. So I knew I'd got it in the right order when my mum said, "They're great, those poems are amazing." And I said, yeah, they are. And tonight's really confirmed that for me. For me, it was like hearing every single track on a CD. They're all very different and maybe written by different people, but complement each other so well. And it's been a real honour to read your work and do this tonight. So thank you so much, everybody. And thank you for Litfest for the work you're doing. As they said at the start, volunteer-led, unbelievable. And yeah, Litfest are amazing. So if you do have a couple of quid to give them a donation, they've not told me to say this, but they would really appreciate it because they do excellent work. I've been shielding for 2 years now, and the only festivals I can attend are online, and they're evaporating because people are forgetting what it's like to be trapped in their homes. And it's important to recognise that I've got a friend, say, that has been in her home for 10 years because she's bedbound. So, yeah, it's really important that we support Litfest in what they're doing, not just because they're a grassroots effort, but because they're producing quality and being really inclusive and, you know, trying. And I think that's where a lot of organisations fall short. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm gonna read one final poem, aren't I, Bill?
Yes, if you would.
Excuse my Spanish. Just revising my Spanish. Buenos dias. Gracias. Went to Italy last month, where it was Borghino. Grazie. So easy to mix them up. Sometimes I remember the odd bit of Latin. Bello. War, but bella means beautiful. My Latin teacher was so skillful. He could hit someone with a board rubber right across the room, chalk flying in a dusty rainbow. At the end of term, he played 3 students at chess simultaneously whilst teaching the rest. I lived in Love Lane then. Amor, amor, amor. Maybe I'll stick to French. Thank you, Anne, for that. And I apologise for my terrible pronunciation. I'm deaf, so I don't know if I said any of those things right. So anyway, back over to Bill.
That was terrific, Hannah. Really terrific. And thank you to all our poets for those wonderful readings. Now, I should have said at the beginning that we would announce tonight the 2 schools that have each won a fully funded workshop with leading children's poet Kate Wakeling. And I'm not going to do a bake-off to you. The 2 schools are Lancaster Girls Grammar School, where James Grundy is head of English, and Lancaster Royal Grammar School, where school librarian Sarah Rogan organised the boys' engagement with the project. Well done to both. We will put Kate in touch with you shortly. Now, you can buy Hannah's poetry and a whole range of new books from the Litfest online bookshop. Every purchase, as Hannah mentioned, also helps us to fund future events and projects because, as Julie Bell mentioned at the beginning, we are a volunteer-run organisation with no regular Arts Council funding. So before we all go our separate ways, if you enjoyed today's event, don't forget to click on the donate button on your screen, or if you prefer, go to our website later if that's easier. Every donation, however big or small, will go towards creating exciting future projects and events and strengthening Litfest as an independent arts charity. Thank you for joining us today. I hope we'll see some of you again over the extended weekend, and especially at the launch of Kim Moore's and Polly Atkins' new books this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. But now, sadly, it really is time to say goodbye, so please join me in thanking once again the wonderful Hannah Hodgson and all the poets who read tonight. Good night.